Every however many thousand thoughts, I remember you. And then I imagine a little bell tinkling in another place, your attention caught. My breath falters, and then I feel a shyness, as if you're really listening, as I get ready to whisper it. And then I whisper it. How did it come to this? I haven't phoned or visited, it's been years, or even sent a birthday card. I never would have abandoned you the way I did. You never would have abandoned me the way you did. But something happened. There's a word for it, but really there's no word for it. We never would have abandoned each other, but we know that. Before, a week or so divided us. A week or two you could withdraw into my past, then easily we'd meet, play catch-up and wipe out the deficit. So we kept time and separation on a string, complacently for 40 years. But now the familiar week has become a month, a year, then 5. As long as I live, you'll tirelessly be moving off, and in my hand the string that snapped. It would seem strange at first were you to stand before me right now, but not much stranger perhaps than the day you appeared in my workplace for the first and only time, bearing my forgotten sandwiches. Worlds have a habit of dividing, but love, finally, will be having none of it. Sprung from your source for 40 years, I moved in time with you. Together we became companionable adult streams, made little meanders and returned. Then your stream faltered, choked, sank in a marsh and gasping ran back to its source. Earth grew spectral, the stream a circle, a glittering hoop, a twinkling ring flung from the forge. Look, it's finished, lies cooling in sand. My stream runs on for now. When I turn, the prospect blurs with prisms, versions. No reason any more to think of you as 70, rather than 30, 10 or 2. As you're taken up and find your place, a revolving reverie, a planetary, ring-bound picture album, my altered love. Ordinary day, sometime in the 1980s, deep in the uneventful long late summer of your lives. It's morning, 11:30. You're just back from the high street. Dad comes in from gardening, both nicely flushed, content from having completed a chore. The kettle surges, clicks off, coffee time. Some little incident out shopping, some scrap of local news is perched on your tongue as you enter with 2 mugs steaming the light-kissed lounge as I stand apart. Let me hear it again and for the first time. The most ordinary little projects, getting the A to Z out to plan a route, debating how long I wanted my curtains and how many hooks would I need. Dad out of the room, whisperingly discussing his Christmas present. These were enough. These were all we needed. And somewhere we knew exactly what we were doing. Just sharing this precious, never to come again life. His mother's voice, with each tiny snapshot brought to light from the bulging wallet hoard, new flooding recognition that's you just as you were, more particular than memory can picture. Then Tony said your voice might still be here, somewhere among dusty tapes upstairs. A boy recording birdsong from the radio, mic up close to HMV, membrane to membrane, when you called supper through the bedroom door and marred the session. Voice that used to sometimes irritate, too loud, love-eager over the phone. Voice that would trail off mid-sentence, as if it were enough that you already knew what you were going to say. My middle-aged ear intent now, straining to catch, among the cries and chirping, the alien song, to hear once more the mother bird's cooing, unforgettable tone song that once enfolded me. What's to be done with them, all the moments of the life we shared? Was their purpose to be used once, then thrown away, never warmed again in remembering? Or are they all archived somewhere, undisturbed unless a detail needs checking in some celestial legal case? A handful of twinkling seeds I scoop from our harvest, they swell, stir in my palm. My 6-year-old palm in yours as we hurry through the December dusk. Christmas is coming. Woolworths, balloons and paper chains in your bag as we pause under a forgotten lamppost for you to lick a woman's hanky and dab my cheek. And next we're drowsing in the back of Tony's car, two grown-ups digesting a full English, Dartmoor farms and villages passing behind the sun flicker of deep-cut minor roads. At once we're in your final summer and the last holiday getaway you craved. My new car stood ready, but I hesitated, a month too long. Will you hold me to it, the promise I didn't keep, and come one day to claim what you are owed? So many moments we would replay. There's joyful unfinished business between us. How could there not be? Too prodigal the pearls, the downpour, we turned away time after time, and yet each seed, a mantled orchard, sweet still beyond the hurry and distraction of its making, waits. Not too late, never too late, no moment benighted, unbeloved, when in radiant possibility, great now, holds us, each cherished instant of us, forever. As the solemn, sacred story of your life unrolls on the screen, as solemn, as sacred as any that's ever been lived, I'm undone. Once more that it was me you chose as one of your precious ones, for such a role in your story as to be your son. That it was I you knitted jumpers for, and I you stole for, totally out of character, smuggling the toy cars under your coat and home from your toy factory job. One day I'll graduate to remembering 1,000 childhoods, 1,000 mothers, a maths that presently bewilders, but then, capacious of love enough, excitedly leafing through the book of lifetimes, spread on my lap, through rising, pungent, ancient stabbings, homing in, I'll dial up late 20th century earth, England, London, Hainault and Way, and find our time together, Sunday roast. You bending and rising on lazy, watering can August evenings, our eyes rising and meeting from magazine and book, goldfish pond shimmer on lounge wall, and I'll hold it, hold it, hold it. The Valley of the Shadow of Death is a large interior space, low-ceilinged for its size, the ceiling being of white synthetic panels, a few of which are missing, and where a couple of dozen people wait quietly, comings and goings gradually shifting their composition during the course of the afternoon. The Valley of the Shadow of Death has a water cooler, a table with old magazines, and a woman at a desk with a phone that keeps ringing. The Valley of the Shadow of Death has several rows of assorted chairs, red and blue, new and shabby, on two of which we sit, you and I, as I try to visualize light surrounding us. The Valley of the Shadow of Death has 3 doors facing us, out of one of which, eventually, a woman appears and calls your name, which I had not known could sound so piteous. The Valley of the Shadow of Death has a little poorly curtained-off space, with a screen showing several dark spots at which a man points. The Valley of the Shadow of Death has a door marked exit, through which we pass. For now, back into the traffic, the breeze, the sunlight. In the last months taking you shopping, or to hospital in the providential car I'd rather late in life acquired, I became a little more cherishing, demonstrative, a little less self-absorbed. In the last days sitting up close, holding a cup to your lips, you couldn't speak, and a moment came I couldn't speak, but nestled my head against your shoulder, too briefly. In the last minutes by your bed, the monstrous breathing of the final stretch. I love you, Mum. Everything's all right. And the ghost of a smile rose through your flesh. My lifetime taken for granted love, like a great reef rose, my forgotten ground. And yet you'd always been here, somehow never seen. Here my lifetime's faithful beloved rose in clear view at last, at the very last. Ave atque vale. Hail and farewell. Half a century ago, restless of hearth and home, out into the cold and dark you went, with a giggle of girlfriends, and found lights, dancing, and the man. Another year or two and I came crying into the light. In family 3 lives were blessed. That story had its day, and now you ventured once again, out of what urging, into a deeper dark. Dear heart, may you again find lights to greet you, music, dance, and who knows what meeting. With deliberation, with fiercely clung to joy, I imagine you whole, recovered, scrubbed up bright and early, in holiday mode again, eagerly exploring the unfamiliar streets, shops, public gardens, the gulls of your new morning rising and crying, more light than Cornwall, further west. End of the century rumours from radiant books that conditions here are changing. The technological avalanche just a sign that mind is rising from its night of shadow wrestling, the long-running, self-manacling Houdini charades played out. Prohibitions fail, secrets exposed. Boundaries will grow glassy, dissolve, including, it is said, the ancient wall behind which, along with all parents, you've wandered. Walking the high street, your old patch, I can't help scrutinising it through your eyes 10 years now, wondering how out of place you'd feel. And not much has changed. Some shops have gone, more sidewalk cafes. The phones, first daintier, now larger again. The cars, more people carriers. The fashions, nothing to startle you. Among the shoppers, still the unchanging range of toddler through to pensioner. It's just the souls inhabiting that troop are not the same. And I, look at me, Mum, a little greyer, a bit more drawn, since you last hugged me, still struggling to get a hold, to make a mark on this weird dream before it vanishes, like these other trainee ghosts. If we have the choice, and who else's choice should it be, then we'll meet in a garden, under apple trees and with mugs of tea. We'll talk over all that's happened since we last did this a month or so before you died. You'll tell us what it was like, that last week's mute withdrawal of your cherished daily life and us to an unrecoverable horizon. The shift itself, and your first clear view of the new conditions, how you met your own mum and dad again and followed us in our earthly lulls and excitements. And we, having presumably also died, will have our own stories to tell. At last, having recovered our old ease, recovered from the hurt and wonder at what's survived, what's back on course, we'll fly off on our own secret missions, even further than when, in the same room on earth, my nose in a book of philosophy, I tracked through its thin air some scent of beauty, while dreaming of Devon, you ticked off your holiday checklist. We'll part, but not before exchanging whatever's the new version of your giving me that fish pie recipe, of me promising to look out for a plant stand that would suit the hall. From here on, all we ask, and all that will be granted, is that each may follow their own tireless, occulted, flashing star, and yet remain connected forever, never to be beyond their tugging the tender bonds of love. I just remembered I had a mother once, and my dear one, it was you.